Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining me. My name is Eric, and I'm an instructor at Kaplan Edupac in Jakarta. And this evening, I'd like to take a few minutes and share with you some tips on how to write an effective personal statement. Most of the schools that you will be applying to will be asking for this. Some may ask for a similar type of document, such as a statement of purpose, or even ask you to respond to some essays that they have, but most schools will be asking for this type of document. So before we begin to look at the personal statement itself, what I'd like to do is take a moment and distinguish between something that is kind of confusing for students, because very often when at the office, when I ask students to write a personal statement for me, a rough draft, what I get in return is something that looks more like a statement of purpose. And I'd like to explore the difference between these two documents so that you can avoid this type of confusion and send the correct type of document to the schools that you will be applying to. So first, a statement of purpose is normally used for somebody to express what they plan to do in graduate school if their studies are research-based. So for example, this would be something that a PhD student would provide with an application very often. However, for degrees that are not research-based, the personal statement is more common. And so let's look at what's the difference between the two then. Well, if you take these two terms and you just eliminate the word statement from each, and you isolate the key word for each type of document, purpose and personal, then it helps us to gain some insight into the difference between the two documents. So the statement of purpose then is emphasizes what you do and what you want to do in school. So it's more about your activity. On the other hand, the personal statement emphasizes who you are, and it explores what motivates you and what brings you to the decisions that you make in your so far in your academic career, and the decision that you're making now or you plan to make about returning to graduate school. So it's important to note the difference between these two because then that will give you the right perspective on how you want to write sentences and describe yourself as you create the draft for your personal statement. Okay, so let me just add to that then. The personal statement helps make the connection between items on your curriculum vitae or resume, that's what you have done, and you, who you are. So this statement then bridges the gap. It helps the reader to understand the how and why behind the things that you have done, which they can see on your curriculum vitae or your resume. If you are going to study for a master's degree and you are going into a business school, your document will probably be a resume. A resume is oriented toward work and jobs. Curriculum vitae is oriented toward academic accomplishment and future academic work. So when I talk about curriculum vitae or resume, for most of you, the application that you send in will be looked at by people who will be looking at your resume and your personal statement together. Also, the personal statement fills in the missing information that helps the reader understand what motivates you and why you have made the decisions that have brought you to where you are today. And where you are today, if you've joined the QS MBA Fair, where you are today is thinking about returning to graduate school and studying business or management. And so very often the people who read your application are going to be wondering, how have you made this decision? And how have you made decisions in the past, and what motivates you? All right, the personal statement then helps them to understand this about you. There are three things that are going to be very important to demonstrate in your personal statement through your experience for the reader. So the primary thing that they're looking for is how motivated you are, how disciplined you are, and how committed you are. So as you think about what types of experiences or what people you have met that you want to share in the personal statement, you need to keep these three words in mind, because you want to share the things about people or experiences that demonstrate that you are these things. Your personal statement will convince me, if I'm the reader, that this is who you are. You are motivated, you are disciplined, and you are committed. That's not all they're going to look for, though. There are other important things that you should try to communicate through your previous experiences as you share them in the personal statement. For example, that you are adaptable and flexible. Also, that you are tolerant. So readers can see that you are adaptable, flexible, and tolerant, especially if you share any experiences where you worked in a team environment. So of course, you have to be these things to be successful working on a team. Also, surprisingly, they would like to know if you're adventurous. And that means you're willing to take risks. You're willing to do things outside of your comfort zone, we say a lot of times. So adventurous is a good quality to share if you have those experiences. And finally, try to think of experiences that you can share where you show that you're comfortable with uncertainty, not knowing about the future, not knowing how things are going to work out, that you're able to work through these types of situations and gain the outcomes that you're looking for, despite the uncertainty, the lack of being able to predict exactly what's going to happen. All right, so keep all of these things in mind as you then think about your experiences, and we'll proceed through and take a look at different parts of the personal statement itself and how to think about them and what to try to think about including. So let's begin with the personal statement. You're going to organize it in chronological order or by time. So you're going to begin the document by talking about past experience. Then you're going to continue by talking about what's happening now. And what's happening now is you're thinking about going to graduate school. So you have to discuss about this decision that you're making. And then finally, you're going to make a few statements about your plans for the future, what you think might happen, what you expect coming up after you graduate with a graduate degree. All right, but to write the document, we're going to change the order a little bit because it makes it easier for us to go through and write the statement. So we're going to take, and we're going to put past in the second place, and we're going to first write our draft thinking about the present, which is your decision to possibly attend graduate school. If you're writing your personal statement, then you have already made that decision, and what's important then is to discuss why you've made that decision. So we're going to start with the present, and then we'll talk about the past and the future. And before we finish today, we'll take this and rearrange it again so that it fits in chronological order or order by time. All right, so in the present then, we want to discuss your decision to attend, and we'll look in a few minutes, we'll look in detail at what to include when you discuss this idea. And then for the past, we're going to look at the events and the people and the things in your life that have occurred which have led you up to this decision to attend, and why you have chosen business and management as the field of study for your graduate degree. And finally, for the future, you're going to take a little bit of space in your personal statement to write about your short-term and your long-term goals. We'll discuss that in a moment. Nobody can predict the future, actually, but the reader at the university you apply to just wants to know if you're thinking about that, if you have some general plans for what you want to do after you receive your degree. Okay, let's go back now to decision to attend, and let's look in more detail at the types of things that you need to think about when you explain this decision in your personal statement. All right, so here are some things to consider. The first is you have to declare your field of study. Now, if you are applying to an MBA program, of course, business and management is going to be the obvious field of study, but if you have already thought about a specialization, or what we call in the United States a concentration, if you already know what that is, it would be useful to share it in your personal statement, for example, marketing or operations or finance or entrepreneurship. If you know now that that's what you want to specialize in, it would be good to share that with your reader. Also, explain why you have chosen the university that you are writing to. So very important now. You want to avoid the feeling of mass mailing applications to many universities. When you write a personal statement to a university, you want to include information that lets the reader know that I'm writing only to you in this personal statement. So of course, each time that you write a personal statement, you're going to have to revise it so that it includes information about the university that you have chosen. So you must answer the question, why us? Why this university? What is it about us that is attractive to you? And why do you want to attend our graduate program in business here? Also, you should mention, you should do homework, and you should take a few minutes to look at the website of the department or the school that you are applying to, and you should at least take a quick look at the faculty or the professors, what they're teaching and what kind of research they're doing as professors, and look for faculty that are doing research in an area that you are interested in now, or that you might be interested in the future. And it's always nice to mention them by name and just say simply, it would be great if I could take one of their classes and learn about what they're doing in the field of, and then mention their field. Okay, let's move on. Other things to include in this part of your statement, which is going to be in the middle, if you have not researched the top universities in the US in your field or study, you need to do that first. You should have a clear idea about the types of schools overseas that are going to be a good match for you, a good fit. And the only way to determine what schools are going to be a good fit for you and which ones are not are, again, to do your homework, to do a little bit of research. All right, finally, choose one that looks appealing to you. And then in your personal statement, you must explain why that university and that program is appealing. Is it the professors, the classes, facilities, location, outreach programs that they have to local companies, perhaps research opportunities? When you decide to apply to a university, you should be clear about what it is that they are offering to you that is attractive and worthwhile for you, and you must explain this in your personal statement. So be thinking about these things as you go through the websites and you look at the information. Always ask yourself the question, what is it here that I need, and why do I think I'm a good fit for this school, and the school is a good fit for me? Okay, let's move on then. Those are some things to think about when you're writing about your decision to attend a university. Now, once you have decided that, it becomes much easier to pick and choose the experiences from your academic background that help the reader to understand the series of events or the things that happened mainly as an undergraduate student and also as an employee of a company, maybe after graduation, that led you up to the decision now of returning to graduate school and applying to that particular university. So here are some things to think about when you are considering what things in my history, my background, would be important to include in my personal statement. All right, so to begin with, you want to use chronological order then. So this is like a personal story that you're developing, and you don't want to just choose things randomly. There needs to be a beginning and an end to this part of your personal statement. And you are going to include the people, the events or activities, organizations, and other experiences that influence who you are today and your decision to attend. Remember, who you are is you're motivated, you're disciplined, you're committed. So what we're looking for are experiences that help the reader to believe they are demonstrations of times in the past when you displayed these qualities, when you showed that you were motivated, you showed that you were disciplined, you showed that you were committed. All right. Then I need to mention here that if you are a career changer, in other words, if you're going to graduate school in business and your academic background is different, and for many of you this will be the case, in your background you need to describe the circumstances that shaped your thinking about the future. So I'm a perfect example of that. My undergraduate degree is in psychology. I have an MBA, and I went to work for a company in telecommunications immediately after graduation, and I had a bachelor's degree in psychology. And this company was reorganizing their business, and because I had a background in psychology, they wanted me to look at the social relationships among employees and how they were working together. I thought this was such an interesting area that instead of pursuing a graduate degree in psychology, I would like to apply my knowledge to the business world and to continue to examine relationships among employees and how they work together and whether they can improve that. So I was a career changer. If that's the case for you, you want to explain what happened, what did you experience that made you think in a different way and now is motivating you to study a graduate degree, for a graduate degree in business. Okay, let's move on. A couple of other things to consider here. In your background, also describe any challenges you have faced so far and how these challenges have impacted who and where you are today. So this is this covers a lot of the characteristics that we looked at earlier, being adaptable and flexible and working through uncertainty. Challenges in our past are excellent ways to show that we have many of the qualities that readers are going to be looking for in your personal statement. And finally, for background and history, refer to any leadership positions, volunteer work, or organization involvement listed on your CV or resume. Explain how these things have motivated you to continue your education. So leadership skills is also something that is valuable, and you should include not repeat what they see on the resume, but just explain why your leadership positions helped you to see that further education was a good thing for you. Okay, before we go to the last part, which is talking about the future, let me give you some useful phrases that should be included as much as possible into the first part of your personal statement. So when you're talking about your previous experience, you should be saying things like, I realized, I learned, I understood, I was inspired by, or he inspired me to, or this inspired me to. I was influenced by, or she influenced me by, or this influenced me by something. And finally, I was motivated by, or he motivated me to, or this motivated me to. So these kinds of expressions can be very meaningful when you are describing your background and trying to help the reader to understand why you have come to the point today where you want to return to graduate school and study for an MBA or other business-related degree. All right, let's move on then to the final section, and I'll make some comments about that. Short-term and long-term goals. So here are some things to think about when writing this final part of the personal statement. First, you should declare in general terms what you want to become immediately after graduation, or another way to say that is what you want to do. At least immediately after graduation, you should already be thinking about how you are going to use this degree to open up opportunities for you to find further employment or higher level employment or higher level work in projects immediately after you graduate. That should be fairly clear to you now, and you should express this in your statement. Together with that, you need to explain how the degree that you receive from that university or program will help you to become that person in that position, or will help you to do that thing that you want to do after graduation. You're going to have a master's degree, and now how are you going to use that to create new opportunity for yourself? And what is that? What do you foresee that opportunity as being? Long-term goals, on the other hand, are a little bit harder to determine. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. It's difficult to say how things are going to work out. So to finish up your personal statement, you want to just generally describe how you see yourself 5 to 10 years from now. And you don't have to be specific here. You can just say, following this career path, and I see myself as an administrator or a leader in a large company, or I see myself working in a high-level government position so that I can influence business decisions in Indonesia, for example. So just a general statement. This will help the reader to know that at least you're thinking about the implications of what this graduate degree is going to do for you and where it's going to take you 5 to 10 years from now. If they can see that you're at least thinking about that in general terms, they're going to feel more comfortable with you as a student and accepting you into their program. All right, so those are the 3 parts of the personal statement then, and some things to think about as you prepare your rough draft and begin to put that together. So now we're going to take the decision to attend and we're going to move it and place it back into the middle. So our thinking and the way we brainstormed and put together ideas was to start with the decision to attend. Now we're ready to move it back into the middle because we want to follow chronological order. So we begin with our background. That leads to the decision to attend. And then we finish the document with our short and long-term goals. Here are some do's and don'ts. I'll finish up tonight with a few things to think about as you go through the writing process. And instead of giving you the do and then the don't, I'm going to use the reverse order. I'm going to give you the don't, do this, and instead do this. So here's point number one. Don't tell long stories to make a simple point. The readers of your personal statement read dozens and dozens of these and possibly hundreds of them. And so they're looking for critical information to make a decision about you quickly. There's help them out, to do them a favor. If you need to include an explanation or background information to a point, be brief about it. And just state the facts. It's not necessary to write a mini autobiography. That will probably bother the reader. They just want a little bit of background information and then lead to the point, maybe an activity that you did or a person that you met. Point number two, don't repeat what is already clearly stated on your CV or resume. They are going to have your curriculum vitae or your resume there with your application package as they look at your personal statement. So there's no reason to repeat again what they can see on your resume. Instead, what you want to do is refer to items on your resume as an introduction to an explanation of something that you experienced. So for example, on screen, while working at ABC company, and then remember that important language, I realized something. While working at ABC company, I learned something. And so we just refer to those experiences on the resume to help us, to lead us into a discussion about things insights that we have through these experiences. Here's another one. Don't generalize when describing yourself, such as, I'm a hard worker, or I'm a team player. Everybody else is saying the same thing, and it's easy to say these things. What the readers are going to be looking for are your actual life experiences to show that you are these things. So I can't emphasize enough, it's through your experience that you demonstrate that you are a hard worker, that you are a team player, and your personal statement is a declaration of the experiences that the reader is going to look at so that they can say, yes, this person needs to come into our program and study at our school. So what you want to do here is provide specific examples of when you demonstrated outstanding personal qualities, like the ones we talked about earlier. All right. When you pull all of that together, then you're ready to discuss your background, talk about your decision to attend, announce your goals for the future, generally, and you have the basis for a personal statement. Let me give you some final thoughts then before I close tonight. The first one is, it would be wise to create a personal statement template that you can copy and paste from to create unique statements for each university. So in your rough draft, feel free to go beyond the word limitation that most universities set for your document, which is about 750 words. If you want to write a document that is 1,000 words or 1,200 words, that really explains everything in your story, go ahead and write that, and then use that as the draft that you will extract information from that is important for the university you are applying to, so that you can reduce your document down to the maximum limit that they require. Okay, next point. Be aware of specific questions that each university may ask about you and answer those questions in your statement. So careful as you read through the information provided by the business school that you're looking at. They may, somewhere in the fine detail, just to make sure that you're not mass producing and mass mailing these applications, they may ask you to discuss one or two questions in the description for the personal statement that they give you on the website. So look closely and make sure that if they ask you to explain anything in particular, that you include that as part of what you explain in your document. All right, finally, be prepared to spend a considerable amount of time researching each university you will apply to and tailor or customize your statement for each campus. So I've mentioned this several times tonight, and this is important because you are making an appeal to each university, and you are describing the unique things that each university is offering to you and why you think that's a good idea for you. So yes, it does take a little bit more work, but the readers are very experienced and they know the difference between somebody who has really looked closely and is addressing a statement for their university compared to others who are just copying and pasting and sending general statements. All right, so very important there. Okay, I think I'm out of time. I wasn't watching the clock, but we're probably close to 30 minutes now, so I should end. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. I hope this was helpful for you, at least to begin thinking about important things to include in your personal statement. And at least this will get you started in that process. And if we can be of any help to you at all at Kaplan Edupac in Jakarta, feel free to contact us if you need any assistance with applying to universities or with things like personal statements or in preparation for tests that you will be taking that you are required for entrance into universities. Don't hesitate to contact us. Enjoy the rest of the materials in this very unusual QSMBA virtual fair. It's all online this year. And I hope you have a nice evening. Thank you for spending time with me tonight. Good evening.